MANSA X Kenya Shillings Special Fund has posted yet another good performance in its Q2 2025 performance. In Q1 2025, the fund posted a 19.53 annualized return, and in Q2, the fund has posted a 21.82% annualized return. The fund has maintained consistent, impressive performance over the last years since inception in 2018, and that good track record of good performance, posting an average of 17.8%, has given investors consistent growth and consistent incomes for those who are using the fund for distribution purpose. The fund is well diversified for risk mitigation, including interest risk, maintaining a potentially alpha return to the investor. Flexibility has also been one of the attributes of this fund, giving the investor a low entry to investments at 250,000 and top-ups of 100,000 shillings, with a short period locking period of 6 months, after which the fund is open for access by the investor. But on the side of the fund manager, MANSA X Kenya Shillings Special Fund, being an alternative investment vehicle to the traditional collective investment schemes, this fund gives the fund manager a wide scope of asset classes to which he allocates the assets under management, giving the fund the ability to generate averagely high returns even when markets locally are not doing good. Comparing to the collective investments in the traditional category, where the money market funds and fixed income funds lie, money market funds and fixed income funds were posting alpha returns in 2023 and 2024 as highs of 17%, 18%, 16%, and now those returns have reduced to averagely 12%, 13%. And the main reason for such a reduction is because the fund manager's hands are tied when it comes to traditional collective investment schemes of the nature of a money market fund and a fixed income fund, because the fund manager is only exposed or given an average about 5 asset classes to which he is supposed to allocate the assets under management, and that limits the fund manager's ability to diversify investments to take care of reduced interest rates from the fixed income securities that they invest into, and therefore there is always expected reduction or variation of return. But for alternative investments of a low to medium risk category like the MANSA X Special Fund, the fund manager has a wide space to allocate the assets under investment, mitigating the risk on returns. And for that reason, the fund is structured in such a way that it is able to give investors a high return even when local markets are not doing well. The other attribute that is very important for this particular fund is growth. For those who are using the vehicle for purposes of assisted growth of their capital consistently in an averagely medium risk space, meaning that the growth will be consistent over a long period of time, then this fund has posted an average of 17.8% over the last 7 years, with the 15% being the lowest that this fund has ever performed in its first year of inception in the tail end of 2018. From that time, the fund gave the highest in 2024, attaining a gross return of 24.56%. In the second quarter of 2025, the fund has given us a 21.82 annualized return, being an increase from the 19.56 annualized return that it posted in Q1. We shall look at the performance and 2 examples of utilization of the fund, one for an investor who is using it for accumulation, and the other one will be looking at an investor who is using the fund as a distribution vehicle. We will see that after 3 seconds short break, so don't go away. But in the meantime, give us a like to this video and engage in the comment section. See you after 3 seconds short break. Welcome back to our MANSA X Kenya Shillings Special Fund Q2 performance analysis. We shall be using this schedule where in column 1, the details of what we are posting in the other columns. Column 2, we have the details of performance for Q1 through Q4 and H2 of 2024. And we are using that column purposely for comparison purpose, with the third column posting 2025 performance. And we have the Q1 performance, Q2 performance, and that will give us the H1 performance. H is for half year. We have two halves in every year. We have the H1 signifying the first 6 months, which covers Q1 and Q2. Then we have the second half of a year, which covers Q3 and Q4. In Q1 2024, the fund posted a 5.62%, and in Q1 2025, the fund posted a slightly lower rate of 4.89%, which gives us a negative variance of 0.73%. Q2 2024, the fund posted a 4.99%. Compared to Q2 of 2025, the fund has posted a 6.02%. That has given us a net increase in performance of 1.03%. The Q1 and Q2, that gives us the first 6 months of a year, summing up the first half of the year, and therefore H1 2024, the fund posted a 10.61%. That one we get by adding the performance in Q1 to the performance in Q2 and accumulation. So H1 2025, performance of 4.89 and 6.02 has given us a slightly increased H2 performance to 10.91%. The annualized performance in Q1 2025 was 19.56%, and in Q2, a 6.02 would have given us a high value of 24.08%. But because these are moving values, we cannot get the annualized percentage of Q2 alone, having the performance for Q1. We need, because that is data that is building up through accumulation, we need now to look for averages. And therefore, taking the performance in Q1 and performance in Q2, we need an average for that. So getting a 10.92, if you divide that value into 2 to get an average and multiply by 4, because that will be the average for a quarter, or take the 10.91 as the first half, then multiply by 2 to get the annualized performance. That is what will give us a 21.82%, being the annualized performance for H1 of MANSA X Kenya Shillings Special Fund. Looking at the Q3 in 2024, the performance posted was 5.14%, and Q4 at 3.78%. The data reliably gives us the expected performance for the fund, and because this fund has been giving us an average quarterly performance of 4.45%, as shown by the second row from the bottom, and using that quarterly performance to compare with the performance in Q1 and the performance in Q2 2025, it then indicates that in 2025, the fund is performing averagely better compared to the previous year. We'll be expecting a good performance in Q3 and Q4 for the year, maintaining the average performance for this fund at 17.8%. This is our second schedule, and in this schedule, we are having a worked out example. We are looking at the picture of an investor who joined MANSA X in January 2025, investing 1 million in the funds, and Q1 posting a 4.89% as the actual performance for Q1 2025. It means that the fund generated a 48,900 as the return for a 1 million investment in Q1. The fund is compounding on a quarterly basis. And what that means is that the return posted at the end of the first quarter, end of March, that return, if not withdrawn from the fund by the investor. And because we have used an example of an investor who joined the fund in January, covering the first 3 months in first quarter, and the fund has a locking period of 6 months. So that consequently means that the 48,900 that was generated as a return in first quarter will automatically be reinvested together with the original investment of 1 million. And therefore in Q2, the opening balance or the capital reinvested will be 1,048,900 shillings. The actual performance for Q2, which ended in June 31st, the actual performance posted was 6.02%. And that is in addition to what was reported in Q1, because Q1 return has already been made part of the capital reinvested in Q2. And therefore, the return for Q2 will get it by getting a 6.02% of the capital invested in Q2, which was the capital balance at the close of Q1. And therefore, the 6.02% of 1,048,900 shillings will give us 63,143 shillings and 78 cents. That is the second batch of income that has been distributed to this investor, which now brings the closing balance for Q2 to 1,112,043 shillings and 78 cents. That is the accumulation, showing how this account grew this investor capital in the first half of the year, Q1 and Q2. And in our last schedule, we are looking at an example of an investor who is using this fund for distribution purpose. And for distribution purpose means that this is a person who has been accumulating investments over the years and has attained the goal amount and now wants to switch to the purpose of the fund, which is now using the income from the fund to support their lifestyle or for whatever use or purpose they assigned the investment. And therefore, we are using an example of a portioned portfolio of 20 million shillings put into the MANSA X Kenya Shillings Fund for distribution or for consumption of income. If this account or if this investor put in a 20 million at the beginning of year 2025, the first quarter generating 978,000 as the income. And because the fund has a locking period of 6 months, that amount automatically gets back reinvested in the fund, and therefore the new capital becomes 20,978,000 at the beginning of Q2. At the close of Q2, June 31st, the total income that will be generated or the additional income for Q2 shall be 1,262,875 shillings and 60 cents. After 6 months locking period, this person or investor can access the income for their consumption. If that amount is not accessed, where the total income generated in Q1 and Q2 gives us a total of 2,240,875 and 60 cents. If you take that amount and divide by 12 months, this fund in 2025 for an initial investment of 20 million for distribution purpose would have generated 185,739 shillings and 63 cents per month for our investor. This kind of investment would require you to prepare for a waiting period of at least 1 year. Because being a portion of the total portfolio for this investor, such an assignment, you analyze the features of a particular fund and decide or tailor a purpose for the portfolio sitting in that particular investment to align with the fund characteristics. This fund would be suitable for yearly access to the income for consumption purpose, and therefore if this investor allowed this fund to invest and compound for a whole year, we would be expecting averagely about 4.5 to 5 million Kenya shillings as the total return from the fund, which this investor would be able to access and set aside to a consumption account from where they will be drawing down their monthly return. If this is the kind of a fund that you're looking forward to investing, then WhatsApp through this number and we'll get you assisted in creating your MANSA X Kenya Shillings account and start off your investment. Thank you for watching and see you in our next video.